you for quite some time. It's freshmen from this marvelous class. 8 consecutive freshmen to begin the draft, tied with last year's first 8 picks for the longest streak of freshmen at any point in any draft. Sophomore forward Morez Johnson Jr. snapped the streak at 9. Speaking of him, first of 3 Michigan lottery picks. Yaxel Lindeborg going a couple of picks later, and then Ademara going a pick later. Michigan's very first draft with multiple lottery picks, let alone 3 of them, and now Dusty May will be among them in the league. And really the story of the first round, the Big 12. Not only did the conference yield each of the first top 2 picks, it had Kingston Flemings at 8, Braden Burries as well went 10. Cole Pete rounds it out, and there are 9 total players from the Big 12 selected, the most by the Big 12 in any draft. And Tim Legler's with me. Tim, can you hear me? Just getting the volume right?
How are you?
All right, my man.
Yeah.
All right, so you made your living this year sitting front row in the league and watching the very best in the world. This class is loaded. How deep do you feel like it goes in terms of players that can immediately join this league and offer significant contributions where they've landed?
How about all the way through? I mean, even as we're sitting here, this last pick of the first round, Koa Pete, is a guy that I'm watching film on and I'm just loving, and he goes with the 30th pick. You're talking about a guy that's NBA ready physically right now. So I think, Scott, it really extended all the way throughout the entire first round. There were some surprises late with some of the trades because I thought some teams actually picked players that would have really worked well for them. And then we find out, minutes later, they're on the move somewhere else. So there were some surprises later, but most of those teams are top flight teams. And for whatever reason, they got other plans in mind. But there are a lot of guys that are going to be in opening night rotations from the first round of this draft.
Now, Dylan Harper blew a lot of people's minds in terms of what he gave, especially late, right? I mean, he was nuts for San Antonio. And granted, you get drafted into an excellent situation there. Is there one guy that you think finds himself in a spot where he's ready to go be an immediate guy? Now, you just told me you think everyone can be impactful. Is there one guy and you're saying Tim Legler's putting his stock on this dude tonight? Who is it?
Well, there's no question for me. I mean, all the guys at the top, at the Dybantsa, certainly. I think particularly going to Washington with that need for a big wing. They've already got a ball-dominant guard. They've got an elite big. They've got some other young guys. They've got a lot of lottery picks on that team. They don't have a guy like this that right away makes you so much better on both ends of the floor. His intensity, his IQ, his versatility offensively. He can play off as a cutter, or you can give him the ball and let him go create. So there's no doubt that he is NBA ready, immediately plug and play for Dybantsa. But I think when you start looking around the first round, other than the obvious guys at the top, I look at a guy like Yaxel Lindeborg in Golden State. Man, they have to be thrilled that a team that really can't wait for guys to be drafted and developed down the road with the state of their roster and what they're still trying to do, that a guy like that with that much maturity and polish on his game would be available at that pick. They have to be thrilled to get a guy like that, a bigger wing with versatility, and most importantly, he's mature. He's got some seasoning. That's what Golden State needs.
Maybe you just answered my question. I was going to ask, who's a team that we would call good to better than good potentially, who got someone who's ready to go tonight? Is essentially that what you're saying right there with Golden State, with Lindeborg, a guy who, by the way, is like a week older than Kuminga, who they just said goodbye to last year?
That's one I gave you just now, but I put a little asterisk next to his name when he was picked because I knew at some point I was going to revisit that, whether it was you or tomorrow. That's how much I love for Golden State. But I got one for you. How about Kingston Flemings in Atlanta?
Sure.
I mean, you're talking about a guy that can really pressure the ball. He's a big-time offensive player as well, but defensively, I think, is where he's going to kind of make a name for himself initially. You put him out on the floor with a Dyson Daniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I mean, you're talking about that's top-tier pressure on the perimeter all over the floor. So I look at Atlanta, and then they go get Zuby Ejiofor as well because they needed some size and some toughness up front. They addressed that need as well, and that's a team that obviously was a big storyline last year. They emerged. They became a solid playoff team in the Eastern Conference. They re-signed C.J. McCollum, so now it's like the young guys take a step, and now let's go add a couple more pieces for depth. I thought Atlanta did that.
I'm at the place, Tim, where anything Presti and OKC do, I just blindly say must be great because it always is. You get a guy in Mara whose length is massively impactful, and Sturtz, I don't know how much you saw him play in college, but I love the way that guy plays. He's never bothered. He's never hurt. His expression never changes. From 12 to 16, can you get impact players? I don't know. I think they've already got plenty. I love what they did. Do you share that sentiment?
Completely agree with it. I was wondering if they were going to try to package those and move up into the, the top 6, top 8. They weren't able to do that. Maybe they didn't want to do that. Look, they've got 2 bigs now, and so you got to get Mara, and it's an interesting situation. Assuming Hartenstein's back, you've got now 3 bigs. So I want to see how that plays out. I really like Mara. His passing ability as a guy like on a short roll, which you get a lot in OKC because of the amount of attention that Shea draws off ball screens. He can also, I think, eventually extend his range. I think he can step out, become a pick and pop, but his rim protection is elite. He's agile. And his ability to go track guys in the lane. And then Sturtz is a guy, I think, as a spacer, as a shooter, you know for a fact that his IQ is something that certainly Mark Daigneault is going to love about him. People were questioning his defense. Was it good enough? Look, if you're going to go to a place where you need some defensive infrastructure around you, I think he found it in Oklahoma City. But I think ultimately he's a guy that's just a winner. He's smart. He's crafty. And he's a guy that's going to be appreciated there. Look, that's a tough rotation to crack. I don't know what it's going to look like for those guys early on in Oklahoma City, but I think they got 2 really good, smart players that maybe bide their time a little bit, but eventually become very good NBA players.
I want to close with this, and I feel like I've asked Louis Riddick this question on the NFL draft front. How difficult is it, Tim, not to fall in love with the kind of each prospect and his story, recognizing that tonight is the realization and culmination of dreams. You see it, the emotion that gets poured out of parents and children. It's hard not to fall in love with each person's story and kind of openly root for them and then still have a critical eye. Is that challenging at all as you're watching this night through the lens of both the parent and a guy who's been in this league?
Well, tonight, very challenging because these guys are sitting right over here. So I'm like,
right.
And their families are here. So there's no question about it. And, yeah, I do feel that because, look, I don't think there's a player that ever laced them up. At some age, you start to think about being a professional basketball player. Everybody who's done it at some point. And so now to think about what went into this night, to have your name called, obviously for me, the focus is going to be on accentuating the positive. What do these guys bring to the table? Certainly down the road next season when I'm calling games, I'll get an opportunity, maybe point out some of the warts and some of the things they need to grow on. But no, there's no doubt. Tonight's just a culmination. It's an incredible night for the young men, for the families, and I was just very blessed to be a part of it.
I love that. If a guy goes under on a switch and gives up a 3, then you can call it out in November. But tonight, let's celebrate, man. And I know there's another night of work coming, but somewhere in the very near future, I'm sure the beach is calling, man. Enjoy it, and I look forward to talking to you soon. All right, Legs?
Sunscreen.
Appreciate you, Scott. Always.
Steve screaming sunscreen. All right. We thank Tim and. We move on to another significant story. A night after trading their all-time leading scorer, Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Bucks make a couple of picks in the lottery. They get Braden Burris from Arizona, who I love. I like Nate Amen a lot, too. Size, going to get strength as time goes on. A couple of lottery selections after they went 9 years without one. All right, there is my guy, Wendy. Brian Windhorst joins me now. And Wendy, when I say Giannis, in my mind, I think of a guy who's so impactful and is one of the greats in this league. But that's the guy that's healthy and maybe is removed from a little bit about that. What is the presumption of who he currently is, the impact he will bring to Miami now?
I think when he's healthy, he's still dominant. I think over the last couple of years, he's really gotten away from hoisting up long-range shots. Obviously, it still happens occasionally, but he has been a heat-seeking missile to the rim. But he's got these calf injuries, and so the Heat have a very strong medical staff. They have got to make sure that I think this is going to be an impactful trade. I'm just not so sure how impactful it's going to be for the 26-27 season because the Heat really had to hollow out a lot of their roster to make this deal, and they may need a cycle or two, a trade deadline and even next summer before you see them really get to be a true contender.
Miami lands him, which means Boston does not. So they don't hollow out the roster, but do you hollow out the, I don't know, the psyche of the group? And what I'm asking is what happens with Brown in Boston?
I think that's sort of already been established, because I think the first decision they made, it wasn't the decision to offer, Brown for Giannis. The first decision they made, Scott, was that their team wasn't good enough. They looked at their roster. They examined the way the season went. Brad Stevens came out at the end of the season, and he said, we did not play very well against the elite teams. So we struggled against those teams even after Jason Tatum got healthy. So they made the decision that Jaylen Brown was going to be available because they felt that they needed to change their team. They didn't see themselves as a team that got eliminated in the first round because they had bad injury luck. They saw themselves as a team that couldn't beat the New York Knicks even if they were healthy. And so they took the steps that they needed to change this roster. And that's what I think you're going to see. You're going to see roster change. And so even though it wasn't for Giannis, I think they're going to investigate what they can do with Jaylen Brown, and probably, I would say likely, trade him at some point this offseason to retrofit their roster to better compete.
Fantastic information. Tonight is the draft. And look, we're all from somewhere. I'm from here. I wanted Dybantsa. Hooray. In terms of the people you talked to around the league who did not have top picks, I'm interested in consensus. Was there consensus among the league, among those that were not selecting 1, 2, 3, about who should have gone 1?
There was absolutely a consensus. The consensus was there wasn't one. Because you talk to people that you respect who've been around the league, they would give you an argument for Peterson. Then you talk to somebody else who has, been around, gone through dozens and dozens of drafts, evaluated hundreds of prospects. They would talk about Dybantsa. It really was a toss-up, and that's why the decision is humongous for the Wizards. Getting this right is going to be one of the most pivotal things they could do, maybe for the next 10 to 15 years. And we're not going to know tonight, and we're not going to know next month, maybe even next year, who got it right. So that was a big factor. And then I really think tonight, you had to lean on your scouting staff and lean on your coaches about how to break down these guards. These guards who went 5 through 9, there's a lot, the opinions on the first 2 picks obviously were very varied. But these guards, we're gonna remember this night on who took these guards where. Specifically, the Sacramento Kings coveted Darius Acuff out of Arkansas. They weren't sure they were going to get to him. The rubber met the road at the 6th pick here with the Brooklyn Nets. They could have taken Mikal Brown out of Louisville. They could have taken Acuff, or they could have traded the pick back. They take Brown. That choice, I honestly believe, Scott, Brown or Acuff will be one of the legacies of this draft.
I love Acuff. Brown had the back issues at Louisville. His ceiling was remarkably high. I love this draft because I think there are difference makers across the board. Time will tell, as it always does. I thank you, Brian, for your time. Be well until we connect again, all right? Washington Wizards. Moving to our neighborhood, it's A.J. Dybantsa. And A.J., I know it was a dream to be number 1. It's been realized. And now the reality sets in. And I'm not trying to get you out of the dream because you got to enjoy tonight. But what do you understand the reality to now be as the number 1 pick in Washington? What comes next for you?
It's a lot of hard work. Obviously, I'm going to enjoy tonight, but just waiting to get to the city, meet the staff again, meet all the players, and get ready to work.
I saw you and your dad in New York at the finals, and you were there to watch the game. But you're seeing these guys that are now your peers. How close did you feel to the moment being real that this is now going to be your job? And as you watch them, how ready do you feel to join that group of the best in the world?
Yeah, definitely at that weekend, I was definitely thinking about it. These are going to be my peers soon. Obviously, I have a lot of work to do to get to the finals, but I definitely think I'm in the right, direction to get there.
I mentioned your dad, and you share with Lisa Salters everything you do for him. I know this was your dream, but you have to know, AJ, that you helped a dream, obviously, for a dad come true tonight as well. To reward all that he poured into you by having this moment, which is yours, but that you share with all your family, specifically him. How do you describe what that means?
Super surreal. I told him he could get the last hug today. So I went around the other way so he can get the last hug, and he said he was super proud of me.
What do you guys do next? I mean, you get all of this, me and all the rest of the world. I want to ask you a few questions, but how do you celebrate a dream becoming real with the people that mean the most in the world to you, AJ?
I mean, we're going to have a little after party after this. A lot of people from France, my dad's side of the family came to come support, so we'll have a little fun tonight.
Fantastic. All right, look, I mean, I'm an old guy. It's not like when you get here we're going to be hanging out. I'm not trying to make it weird, but your dad knows how to find me. You need anything, we can help you out to get yourself acclimated here in the nation's capital. We look forward to having you in town and cheering you on, okay?
For sure. Thank you so much.
And enjoy the night, AJ. Congratulations.
I will.
With the 17th pick in the 2011 NBA Draft, the New York Knicks select Iman Shumpert from Georgia Tech.
Oh, that smile is fantastic, Iman. I didn't know we were going to show it. What do you remember about that moment when they said your name and you're going to New York?
I remember rewatching the moment because I passed out in the moment. All I remember was waking up and having my mother's arms around my neck. And that was my realization that I was still alive. After that, I remember giving a hug with my father and going forehead to forehead. And it was like, I don't know, just passing that connect. It was like the best way to say thank you to my parents, to pass out like that and then go embrace my dad right away. I think both of them realized how much they had sacrificed for me and how much they had done. So that was one of the most I think both of them realized how much they had sacrificed for me and how much they had done. So that was one of the most beautiful moments of my life.
That's fantastic. Man just fell out, got picked, and just that's understandable. I mean, it's a dream becomes real. I'm going to get to that part of it in a second. I want to ask you at first about the top of this draft. It's loaded, and there's a ton of talent. Iman, who do you feel like out of these youngsters is ready to immediately, in a league of grown men, show up and contribute?
Well, I think there's a bunch of guys that are going to step right in. When I look at Darius Acuff, after I've been watching Jalen Brunson, I'm like, wow, is he going to step in and be able to do stuff? Because that once I had this thought that, you know, small guards are just going to struggle and have to make an adjustment. But watching Jalen Brunson time and time again play under the basket, and still be able to get things done, it starts to make my mind open up and realize that some of the scoring prowess that comes from a smaller guard can work to their advantage as much as to their disadvantage. When I look at Cam Boozer, I think of the same thing. As a big, he is one of those guys that can play, but winning follows him to every level. And I see him being able to step right in and do things that most guys wouldn't be able to do. When winning is a part of your tag next to your name, I think that it can carry you along not only through a season, but throughout your career. I look at the top of the draft, the 1 and 2 picks that could have gone either way, and I look at AJ and I look at DP and I say, hey, man, both of these guys are able to step in and play. It's just sometimes we're going to have to tailor their mindset. We're going to have to make sure their conditioning is good and make sure that they stay healthy and available to play. But this whole draft almost seems like, though it went kind of exactly how we thought, when I look at this draft, I understand that these guys can step in and make a difference. They do the intangibles. They rebound. They play hard. Anytime you play hard, good things can happen.
Iman, I went down a wormhole today of guys at 17. Just curious, like, what are we talking about? And there's some all-time legends, and then there's some names that just, you know, the way it goes, it doesn't work out. In terms of the traits, because we're talking about a first-round pick, not lottery, but right there in the middle of the first round. In terms of the traits that you're in that draft range, and Corey went there tonight for what it's worth, what is the most important thing to bring with you to the job that gives you a chance to be successful?
You have to be mentally prepared to be complimentary to stars, be complimentary to guys that are already in position to run the team. I think the top of the draft goes toward, a guy having to come in and change a narrative, change an organization. But when you come in at 17, that middle slot over there, you have to come in and say, I want to be complimentary and I want to win.
They might turn the lights out on you here, so I don't want to have you in the dark. I want to tell you thank you for reliving that magical moment when you were selected 17 with your family, and thank you for your time throughout the playoffs and tonight, Amon.
Scott, I appreciate you, man. Whenever you need me in Chocolate City, you know I'm a holler. Just all you need. Just holler, baby. I'm right here.
I got the seat right here. I'm going to keep it warm for you. We'll talk soon.